Hi guys, Andy and Spoken Label back in the house on Tuesday evening. We're over to Bradford today. I think it's Shipley by this gentleman I've got with me, Nick, today. Is that correct, Nick? Are you in Shipley at the moment, in Bradford still?
Well, I was born in Shipley, but I live in Bradford. So I'm actually on the Leeds-Bradford border, but on the Bradford side of it.
Right, I wasn't sure now. That's fine, because what the first surprise you got for you tonight, Nick, is my actual wife is in the other room, Amanda. She's actually was born in Bradford as well. She was born in Woodside, if you know that bit.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's where she came from. See, small world, right?
Yeah, very small. Yeah.
Yeah. Anyway,
my wife's from Bradford too.
Right. Which
choice?
Oh, good. Yeah. Always
and so was Charlie Watts, the drummer from the Stones. He was married to a Bradford girl.
Oh, was he? I'll tell him that later. Yeah. I never knew that.
All his life, apart from before he was married.
Never knew that. I say small world, yeah. Indeed. So anyway, Nick, obviously. Now, for people who don't know you, obviously, we've got a lot to talk about today. You're one of these sort of characters I expect people will know when they realise what you've done, as in some of your projects in the past, and you've got actually ongoing at the moment. So, obviously, tell people a little bit about yourself first of all. Then, where all your creativity came from, and we'll start from there.
Right. Well, when I was about 8-9 years old, I'd got a relative who used to always buy me a diary as a Christmas present. And I felt guilty that, I'd use it for the first couple of weeks and then leave it blank. And I decided that what I'd do is, instead of writing what I did, which I thought was a bit boring, I thought I'd write down just ideas, things that had struck me. Could be anything from just a line that I'd heard that was interesting, through to a joke or something like that, so that each page would be just something interesting that wasn't necessarily about me, because I didn't feel I was interesting enough on my own. But no, that thought remains. I can't imagine ever writing an autobiography, but I am working on a book that is stories about people I've met, incidents, things that have happened, which is going to be called My Life Sentences. So there's a kind of continuity to it. I don't think that I'm that interesting, but I love what I write and I love writing. So that diary then simply became notebooks and stuff as I got older. But from about the age of 8 or 9, I've written every single day. And I've wanted to be a writer as long back as I can remember. And I felt that if you want to be a writer, then, if you're a plumber, you do plumbing every day. If you're a writer, you should write every day. So I've had this discipline and I've got a work ethic as well. And I think, if you want to do something, you do it properly. Or if I was a sportsman, I'd have to exercise every day. And that idea made me feel as well that it wasn't just doing my job, but it was also staying writing fit. And that writing every single day means that you are full-time in writer mode. And I think if you leave it for a bit, occasionally, like when I've been ill or something, or once or twice when I've gone on holiday. Now on holiday, I write every day. We've had a 2-year holiday, past 2 years with COVID. Occasionally I've not written for a bit, and it's been hard getting back into it. And loads of writers that I know have periods where they're inspired and periods where they say they can't write at all. I can't imagine that. I don't wait for the muse to descend. I drag the bugger down.
You drag him up by short and curlies, then basically.
Absolutely.
Fighting your muse, similar to be honest, mate.
So I don't get writer's block or anything. If I might get it for about half an hour or so, where I'm sitting trying to write and I'm thinking this is rubbish, but I don't throw stuff away. I keep everything. So I go back to pieces of writing. So if I can't think of anything one day, I just go back through. Now it's all files on my computer. I just go back through the files and choose a file and write some, rework something that hasn't worked out.
Yeah,
So
same.
nowadays I'm writing books and books on the computer, and I keep all the stuff that I drop from poems or lyrics that I'm writing. I keep all the stuff at the bottom of the file, you know, so the first 60 pages might be stuff that I feel has been good, but there's another 100 pages built up at least during the writing of that, of bits that I've abandoned. And I go back through that before I finish the book and work some of that back into the book. It might go back into a piece of writing that I thought was already finished. It might become a separate piece of writing. But I'm a great believer in, you know, if you've started into something, there's a gem there, a germ there. Or you can think of it as a gem where it was turning slowly and then suddenly it caught the sunlight and you thought something was good there and it carries on turning and you've lost it again. But there's the germ of an idea in there, and it's always worth revisiting stuff because you can dig up tiny bits from it that are really good.
Yeah, I agree completely. Now, obviously from your bio, I know obviously you've been telling me, and you said already you were starting writing when you were a child, and you were getting your poems published in your mid-teens, weren't you, originally as well? And then you did your first public reading when you were 19. So like, that's impressive, John. Did you find like, were you surprised in some way when you first get your poems published as early as what you did now in hindsight?
Yeah, there was a really odd thing happened. The Sunday Times was publishing short humorous pieces, really short ones, and just you know, 1-2 liners that were just puns and plays on words and stuff. And I sent in when I was about 16, 17, I sent some in and they got used and they paid me. I got a $5, which back then when I was a teenager, I mean, I was born in 1950, so 72 later this year. But you know, back in the mid 60s, £5 when you were a teenager, you could party on that.
Definitely have a rave of that, definitely.
And then I had several of those used, and then the Sunday Times contacted me and said we're doing books of them, and they did a couple of books, and those went into W.H. Smith's and everything, and were really popular. Brilliant. And I had pieces in those, and I got repaid. And then there was a TV program that featured loads of them, and I had a couple of my pieces included in that, and I got £25 for those. And I just thought, wow, I can make a living doing this, right? Naively. And it was years later that I actually started making a living, but it gave me the faith that you could actually, if you worked at it, make a living from it. And I've been incredibly lucky in that. I say that I had a 40-year apprenticeship because it took me 40 years to actually make enough money to pay tax. But I got by on it. I wasn't after, you know, getting rich. I wanted to just make a living. And ever since then, I've made a living and it's been okay. Well, you know, we've had kids and they've grown now and gone. But I've actually made a proper living for the past few years, a really decent living. I'm really happy with it. We've paid off the mortgage on this house, and we've actually got a second house that we rent out.
Wow!
And I never
Brilliant.
expected to get that, but I mean, I don't have much in the way of a pension because I've never had a proper job, so I just get a very basic pension. So the second house was. We just felt it a few years back. It was worth buying one if we could afford it, and we thought that we could. And I worked harder, and you know, again, my wife had a good income. She was a senior manager in NHS, but we've always gone halves on everything we've worked on. I've always wanted to keep up with her and be able to pay at least half, and that's how we work things. But that pushed me really hard to work at what I was doing. So I was doing journalism, I was working with bands, I was putting on gigs, I was doing part-time lecturing at a college, I was all this sort of stuff, as well as going out and gigging as a poet and working in schools and all that. And then I hit really lucky getting an agency, Authors Abroad, who booked me into schools for the past years and years, and just found me the work. That's been really, really great. And I was one of their first authors.
Brilliant. Now, also, like, people are wondering about Authors Abroad, listeners regularly, they'll remember the name Terry Caffrey, obviously, who I spoke to back in the last year. I know you know Terry, you told us as well. So that's why. And you tell people, obviously, they don't know this. I thought it's a great story for you. Told us how you first met Terry as well. Because Terry certainly didn't tell me this story when I spoke to him.
Oh, yeah. I was a resident writer at a library over in Lancashire, and Terry started coming to all of the stuff, and we put together publications, not just me and Terry, but the group, and we did readings and all sorts like that. Terry was really motivated by it, and I think he was already dabbling in writing, but what really got him going, I think, was being part of that group, which included loads of people who really felt that they could go somewhere with it. And I had that enabling attitude as well. And I think you need that. It's very difficult when you're a writer to have the confidence in yourself continuously.
Yeah, no, I agree. I agree with you.
The process of writing means that you have to question yourself the whole time. You have to doubt yourself. You have to look at pieces and think, is this really as good as I think it is? Because maybe it's not. Maybe I'm wrong. There are times when you lose faith a little bit in yourself, when you get rejections, all that sort of thing. No matter how self-confident you are, getting knocked back. I mean, I've never been published in a really major literary magazine, not ever. And I get ignored by most of the mainstream poetry press and most of the mainstream literature. I don't do literature festivals much. Off and on, I've had moments when I've been able to. I got published as a kids writer by Macmillan and got really successful there. And altogether, the books that I've had out, I've sold almost 1 million books, which is way beyond what I hoped for.
That's excellent. Now, obviously, if people are wondering, obviously, we're going to make them aware you haven't just wrote 1 or 2 books. Like you said, you told me already you've done over 40, haven't you? So, and I know when we come to later on, you've got a number of books on the way at the moment as well.
Yeah. And yeah, it's over 50 books that I brought out. I haven't sat down and counted them. But it's because I write every day, so the stuff is just there. I've got loads of stuff that should have been published, and I never have. I'm really bad at pushing my own work.
Yeah,
I love doing it, but once it's finished, it's like a painting that's finished. It's up to galleries to display them. You can't do anything more with them.
Yeah, I agree.
Apart from going out and performing stuff.
I agree. Now, what I want to know, obviously, is obviously your first book came out when you were 21. And obviously, I know already that he told us how old you are now. How has your poetry books changed over time?
I hope that they've got better.
I'm sure they have, mate. I'm sure they have.
Well, I think you become a better judge of your own work as you go along, and you have to. But also, I think you really hope that each time you bring out a book, there's something about it that's better than anything you've done before.
Yeah,
you've got to have that sense of moving forward. And I mean, you see it in people like, I don't know, David Bowie, Bob Dylan, a whole load of people who don't even perform their standard songs the same way. They want to make those songs evolve and everything. And I don't think I've performed some of the poems that I've written the same way twice. I've never done the same set twice. Not in schools, not in gigs that I've done. I always change it. And nowadays, because I really make myself finish things each day, nowadays, I hardly ever read old stuff. Very occasionally. But for the most part, I like reading stuff that I've written in the past week or 2 weeks.
Yeah, no.
That makes my set that I perform. And
Yeah,
people go, can you do this? Can you do that? And I go, I haven't even got a copy of it, mate. Sorry.
To be honest with you, Nick, and I agree in this. As a writer, I always believe in moving forward all the time. You've got to keep moving forward, because if you don't, you end up going in circles. And I think as a creative person, that's possibly the worst thing you can do sometimes. Definitely. So I do agree with that. Now, I want to ask you, obviously, before we come on to, if there's a few more bits and pieces, I know obviously when I was going for your website before, that I found it very, very interesting when basically I found out you're also a puppeteer and a magician. Now, tell us about this and where do these come from?
Oh, quite easy. I was shown a magic trick with beer mats, 2 beer mats, in a pub, and I went in the school next day and I did the trick, and the kids went, "Have you got any more?" And I went, "No," and they went, "Oh." that noise, that "oh," right, it's what made me a professional magician, because there was a magic shop not far from my house. And that day, coming back from the school, I thought, I won't disappoint another class. And I called in at the magic shop, and there was a really old magician just happened to be in the shop. And I spent about an hour and a half there. And I came out of the shop having bought about 10 magic tricks. And this old guy had just got things out of his pocket and just showed me loads and loads of tricks, just taught me loads. He said, "If you're interested." And I went, "Yeah." And he went, "I'll show you some." I think he was just an old man who was bored. He'd retired from doing magic himself, but he just pulled all these coins out of his pocket and showed me how to do all these tricks with just everyday things.
Oh, fantastic.
And so I came out with loads, and now I do about 5,000 different magic tricks.
Wow.
Well, it's the sort of obsessive thing that blokes do, you you start into something and you just get totally obsessed with it.
Oh, I've done that with various creative stuff myself, so I know what you mean. Yeah. If it really interests you, and it definitely applies to you there, is that you just keep on do more and more and more, don't you? So yeah, I get you completely with that. Where did the puppeting come from then?
Well, the puppeting was really early on. I was vaguely interested because I'd come across a couple of puppets that were cheap on eBay that looked cute, and I got them thinking maybe I could use them with kids in schools, But then I got asked to do some work with some young kids who'd been abused, mostly girls, really quite young, and they were very, very frightened of men. And they were in care, and I was asked to go in and work with them and try and make them less scared of men who weren't a threat. And so I thought, what I'll do is I'll take in a puppet and I'll make the puppet really shy, and I'll keep it in a bag, and I'll talk to it and try and encourage it to come out. And it means that I won't be looking at the kids. So I won't be challenging them in any way whatsoever, because I won't make eye contact with any of them. And I still use this puppet. It's not actually the same puppet, but I still use the same kind of routine with it. It's never exactly the same. I like that. When I get a new puppet, I always sit with it in front of a mirror for about an hour and get to know it and get to work out what our relationship is. It's exactly the same as playing with language and learning your relationship with that piece of language, But this particular puppet, it's just great. And what was astonishing about that session when I actually did it it just worked so much better than I even hoped, because by the time I got the puppet out of the bag and was chatting to it, and it wouldn't look up at the kids, it was frightened of them. And I wanted the puppet to take up my attention, and I wanted it to be more afraid of me and everything around it than these kids were. And by the time I'd actually got the puppet to turn around and look at them and then hide again because it didn't realize there were so many people in the room and that sort of thing, and did funny bits with it to try and keep it happy and everything. By the time I'd done that, these kids were holding onto my legs, wanting to get close enough to see the puppet.
Oh, fantastic.
It was just great.
That's
Just
sheer magical. Great story,
yep.
That really magical.
And that's what made me feel that puppets were really good. Now I use them loads. And I, especially with kids who have low attention spans, or kids who have English as a second language, or when I'm working abroad, generally, because a lot of the kids have English as a second language, it gives them breaks from the words. So to do a magic trick or to do a puppet means that they're not just getting an hour of me gobbing away, and you know, hard work for them, and it gives me breaks as well. So it's nice, it's good.
Brilliant.
But basically,
Brilliant.
The puppets and the magic are visual breaks in what I do.
Of course, yeah, getting complete off, fantastic. Now, that's only the side tour what I was going to talk to you about today. So it took us 20 minutes to get to the bits we want to talk about now. Obviously, you were telling me before then, you've done 3 vinyl albums over the past year, and there's a 4th one due out next month. Tell us about these next one, please.
Right. Well, I can show you. I've got the albums here. So what we've got, I won't get them out, but they are coloured vinyl and stuff. This one is the second album that I've done with Tees Marson, and it's got a dark title, Death and Other Destinations. And figure of death going my way. But it was really interesting. Tees got hold of a recording of me reading a poem that was on an album years and years ago, and he set it to music. He took my words, played about with it. A lot of my performance is rhythmic anyway. I like using rhyme and I like using rhythm, and he just felt it fitted to music really easily. So he set it to music, and then he found my email about 8 years later. And he emailed me with the track attached, and I really liked it, and we exchanged emails, and he set a few more tracks to music. And I'd got a friend in Bradford who had a small label, and he called round just to chat with me about stuff. And I mentioned this, and he said, play me some. And I played in it, and he went, I'll do an EP of three of the tracks.
Brilliant.
And so we got an EP out, and we'd never even spoken, me and Tees, right? And then he did more tracks, and we got an album ready. And that was the first album, which isn't the one I've just shown you. What I've shown you is the second one.
Yeah, he said,
the first one came out on a CD. But then suddenly, he's in Bavaria. So the first album was called Bavariations. And a German radio station then commissioned him to do a documentary about 2 people who'd never met, getting an EP and then an album out. So we had to meet. He had to come over to England. So the very fact that they were interested in this destroyed it. Right?
Oh yeah, slightly, isn't it?
So he came over, and we spent a couple of days together and recorded loads of stuff, and he made the program and all that. But it's the only time we've ever met, and we're about to do a 3rd album. He's done all the tracks, and it's ready to go. But in fact, when we came up to doing the album, we hadn't even spoken. We hadn't heard each other's voices. His name is spelled T-H-I-E-S, but I thought he was called Thies until I actually met him, and he looked at me when I said, "Nice to meet you, Thies," and he went, "My name's Tees." Right, but also he didn't
done the same though.
He didn't know how to pronounce my surname, so that's how little contact we'd actually had. So it's a nice backstory.
Oh, it's fantastic, mate! Absolutely fantastic.
And then Matt Webster, who designed my website, and we'd worked on a couple of albums together. An album I had some demo tapes from a band called The Negatives, who were the first proper punk band in Bradford, and the singer had died, and we wanted to release some of the stuff because it hadn't been released, and he had some recordings of them live. So between us, we'd got a load of stuff, and so we got together to produce the album. And while we were doing it, I said to him, I've got a whole lot of tracks that were released on a vinyl album years back, and I want to add some tracks to it. Could you help me put the CD of him together? And he said, "Oh, I'll do better than that. I'll release it on my label." So we started working together, and then he started designing my website for me. And then he suddenly said, "Shall we do some recording together?" He's a multi-instrumentalist. And he didn't want me to try singing or anything, which I had done on a lot of the tracks that I'd previously done. But he said, "No, let's make it poetry to music." And he'd got loads of friends who were musicians and stuff. So we brought out this. It came out first on CD and then
an album. Yeah, people are wondering, this album could shoot to the messenger for people wondering, in case you're just listening to this, not following the video.
Yeah, if I just show you the sort of packaging, Matt is a perfectionist and he's great.
Wow.
So you've
That's
got
a cracking eyelid, that.
Inner sleeve with all the lyrics and everything. And then the actual vinyl is purple.
Oh, so beautiful.
Just a lovely job.
Yeah, he's done a good job there straight away.
You know, it's been a pleasure working with him, and he only lives he lives about 5-minute drive from my house. So we work together regularly, and he doesn't get out much. He's got disabilities, and he looks after his really aged mom. So it's just been really good working with him, and he's an extraordinarily creative man.
To do that level of, obviously you just follow us in the audio, to do that level of design work and that's incredible.
Yeah, and then there's the second album,
wow,
Walking the Tightrope, and then there's a third album coming, and I can show you the cover because what he's done is put together, this is mostly him, a book of all our lyrics.
Oh, brilliant. I saw that on your website. I was going to ask you about that.
And then with it, there's a CD which has the 10 tracks on the new album, which is coming out in vinyl next month. But it's also got 9 tracks from the last 2 albums. So it's a 19-track CD. And again, his perfectionism with it, you know, everything just looks really good. Yeah.
Oh, it does. It does.
And that's his design there. And if I don't know how well you can see it, the lights.
I can see that really clearly.
You see a helicopter there, an aeroplane, also.
Yeah, and the pirate ship, particularly, yeah.
But the pirate ship's got radar on the top.
Oh, it has as well. Oh, wow.
Yeah.
Wow. For everyone's interested, I'll put Nick's website up on, obviously the writer will do his later. It's well worth a look to see the level of detail in this art. It's incredible.
Well, the book has illustrations, it's pictures of all the musicians and all that. And there's some really interesting musicians. I mean, Paul Gray from The Damned is playing bass with us. on several of the tracks, about five, six of the tracks.
Good choice.
He was also with Eddie and the Hot Rods before that.
Oh, yeah.
Who were a favourite band of mine. Really like Eddie and the Hot Rods.
Really?
Do Anything You Want to Do.
Brilliant stuff, mate. Oh,
he's
fantastic.
The bass player.
Fantastic. Now, I want to look at, obviously, start winding down what we're talking about now to go to your future projects. Because I know you've got quite a few things coming up, Nick. So we'll go on to that now. Obviously, you've said your 4th vinyl album's out next month. And I know you've got a number of books on the way this year as well, haven't you?
Yeah, there's a load. Well, this is the first one. But then there's I did these one poem a day for a year, the first year of COVID. I actually went over one day over the year by mistake.
Hoping I do that.
15th of March 2020 to 15th of March 2021. So I actually did both 15th of March and just I wasn't thinking. So there's 366 poems, and the first 100 plus are in this book, which is the Corona Diary. Dark cover, but I mean, there weren't fabulous times, were they? The second book's coming out soon. The cover's designed. I haven't got the cover design here, but that's going to be called The Year the World Stood Still. And don't have a title yet, but the third book comes out towards the very end of this year. So there's another 2 books there. I've got a kid's story called The Glass Prince. That's coming out later this year from another press. And there's at least one more, probably 2 or 3 more, that hopefully will be out before the end of the year. And there's other stuff that I'm working on now. I did a reading from some stuff I've just been doing. And at the end of the reading, I got offered publication of that. So it's a nice positive time.
Oh, yeah. I think we got to a positive time after what we've had the last couple of years. And you can sell your case there. It's everything that obviously when things are at darkest, you're making light out of yourself. Now that's brilliant news to see that one, Nick. So good luck with it, mate, straight away with that. So now what we're going to do is obviously we're going to get you to read a few pieces after it's in the second half in a few minutes. So obviously, if people want to find out more about you, first of all, obviously, I know your music can be got from your website, and I've also seen it going on Bandcamp as well. So obviously, tell people where your website is, first of all, okay?
Well, the website is simply www.nicktoczek.com. The difficulty is learning how to spell Toczek.
Yeah.
Toczek. So it's NICKTOCZEK.com.
Yeah. Where's your family from within your surname?
Well,
is that Polish?
Originally it's Polish, but even my grandfather couldn't speak Polish. The family were German Jewish. I think the Polish side of the family goes back something like 7 generations.
Right. Yeah.
So, but they lived in an area that had been Poland, but was now Germany.
Yeah.
So, the border shifted a lot, and a lot of Polish people spoke German as well, and were German from former Polish families, because borders didn't exist really, as far as people were concerned, and it was only during the 20th century that those borders really sort of firmed up and people became either German or Polish.
Yeah, I understand.
It was countryside, and it didn't matter. Same as if you go, along the border between Holland and Belgium. There are still houses where you only know whether the house on a street is in Belgium or Holland because they have the Belgian or Dutch flag on the front of the door.
Yeah.
And
No,
they
of
pay
course.
tax, but the same street, and they can pay tax. Different people pay tax to different countries on the same street.
It's crazy, and yeah, and I get completely
Because the border just zigzags, and it's only random. And I think at some point people who had land could choose whether, if they're on the border, whether they decided to be Dutch or Belgian. So
Yeah.
nice times when nationality wasn't that important. I hate nationality.
Well, there is changes now straight away. So now, what we're going to do, we're going to wrap up now, Nick. Obviously, people go look at his website. All your details are on your website, and I know you've got a page on Bandcamp.
I've also got a Wikipedia page.
Yes, brilliant.
People can go to Wikipedia and have a look at that as well.
Yeah, brilliant. It's good to me then. Yeah. So what we're going to do, we'll wrap up this bit. I want to give you time to get a few poems right off us in the second half. So hang around, everybody. I'm fully looking forward to this. It's been a pleasure today, Nick. So it's been great fun, mate. See you in a minute.
Thank you.
See you in a minute, guys. It's been brilliant fun. See you in a minute, guys.